You're listening to the Patriot Nation podcast.
All right, welcome into another edition of the Patriot Nation podcast. As always, a proud member of the CLNS group of podcasts. Make sure you download, subscribe to all those great shows. Get great Patriots content all week long, including great Combine coverage from the Combine, exclusively from the Combine. And it is Combine week, and that means, Matt, I'm willing to pull Ricky Williams and trade my entire draft for Sonny Styles. I don't care. Play him at whatever position you want. Just get that man on my team. Holy crap. What what a freak.
See, what's funny is basically the first thing that I did today was read an article, and I'm forgetting who it's by. But it was a detailed breakdown of basically which combine metrics for which defensive positions actually end up mattering. And when you scroll down to linebacker, what you see is the combine doesn't matter at all for linebackers.
Right.
Because it's such a cerebral position. None of the athletic traits matter unless you can put yourself in the spot to actually use them. That said, Sonny Styles has great tape. I'm not super concerned with that about him. And he's one of the best combine testers we've ever seen. I mean, they had a comparison between him and Megatron. Like that's unbelievable.
He is the number one out of 3,215 linebackers since 1987 out of RAS. He measured in at 6'5", 244, had a 43.5-inch vertical with an 11-foot 2-inch broad jump and a 4.48 or 4.7, depending on who you listen to, 40-yard dash. That is absolutely insane. And so it's just,
And here's the thing. With linebackers, the concern is always going to be that, like, the mental side doesn't translate. But he's a guy where you almost feel like the worst-case scenario is he's, like, maybe the best second linebacker in the league. Like, the worst case that he's so athletic that even if he doesn't end up being that good, like, do you remember how the Patriots used Jelani Tavai a couple years ago when Belichick was still here, where they just kind of asked him to hit things? Like, Bentley did all the middle linebacker stuff, and Tavai was just like hit things and finish plays. I think the worst case scenario is Sonny Styles is the 99th percentile of that style of player. Right. Where it's like, oh, just go. We're going to put you out somewhere, and we're going to tell you to hit one gap and just hit it. And if the guy's there, make the tackle. If he's not, blow someone up anyway.
Right. That's really what it comes down to, right? And that's, it's, yeah.
I don't think he had a missed tackle this year. And it was funny. Yeah. The first tape I watched of him, he has one play that I don't necessarily love right off the bat. And I kind of got not the best first impression of him. And I was like, all right, it's not great tackling form. Like, it's getting a little nitpicky with it. And then I see that stat about him not having any missed tackles. And I'm like, oh, okay. So that play I just watched is like, that's as bad as it gets. That's the worst case, is still a tackle that wasn't perfect form. All right, I'm in on this guy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really incredible. So, yeah. I mean, he's insane. And so I don't want to spend too long talking about him because there's just no chance he plays here. So, like, it's just like kind of, that's cool.
Well, I do think it's probably worth talking about just because there's a good chance he ends up in New York with the Jets. The Patriots.
That's also true.
Playing against him here. So I think on that part, it's relevant. I think it's also interesting. And, I think one thing we kind of forget about the Combine, you're not just scouting the guys for this year's draft. You're scouting the guys for if they become available for a trade in 2 years, or for when they hit the free agent market at the end of their rookie deals. I mean, we all know how Belichick was the guy where, all right, well, 2 or 3 years into rookie contracts, he would trade for guys who weren't working out, and all of a sudden they'd, have a career year in New England, and he'd find the way to maximize them that the other team couldn't. this is where that's important. If Sonny Styles, with all this testing, goes somewhere, ends up being a mediocre player for 3 years, but the Patriots see something there and they're like, we liked him back then, we still like him now, we're going to go make a move and see if we can make this work. That's where this stuff ends up being important.
Yeah. I agree with you. Someone that did that today, an interesting, speaking of the Jets, a very interesting trade by the Jets today. What did you think about this trade? It was a straight up trade. T'Vondre Sweat for Jermaine Johnson. What do you think about that?
It makes sense. Jermaine Johnson was one of Robert Saleh's guys in New York, and T'Vondre Sweat is not necessarily a scheme fit for the way Robert Saleh likes to play defense. So I think this is one of those classics. I've got a player who's good, but doesn't fit what we do. They've got a player who fits what we do, who's about as good. We'll just make a swap, and both teams kind of end up being better because of it. That said, Jermaine Johnson has been a worse player than T'Vondre Sweat in the league so far from what we've seen. So, although I saw someone saying, like, I know there were character concerns on Sweat coming out. It sounds like they still might be there, even though he's played well.
Maybe that's the case, yeah. Yeah, you know what? Johnson is an interesting guy because he's shown some flash, right? He had 7.5 sacks his rookie year, and then he was hurt, I believe, in 2024. And last year he was fine, but nothing special, right? Now, the Jets were horrendous last year, so like...
It was either ACL or Achilles. I don't remember which one. But I think I think it was the classic, like, oh, he's 1 year removed from this and didn't get back to himself. And
right.
Like, this is, I think it makes a world of sense for the Titans on paper. It's just they actually need Johnson to bounce back to what he was before. And that's T'Vondre Sweat coming into the division. He gave the Patriots a hard time, not this season, but the year before, right?
He did, yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting to watch. I mean, the guys who were part of the interior for New England that struggled with him, for the most part, are not here anymore. so different cast of characters.
Very true.
But that'll be interesting, I guess.
Yeah, very true. Sweat is he's an interesting dude. Good player, really solid player for Tennessee. And Jermaine Johnson, again, and it wasn't his rookie year, it was the second year where he had 7.5 sacks. And as goalie says, and he's right, is that, Johnson is on his 5th-year option. So he's making a good amount of money. Sweat's only 2 years into his deal. So he still has 2 years left on that rookie deal. He was a second-round pick. So,
yeah, and I would assume they extend Johnson.
You would imagine. I mean, it doesn't make much sense to make that trade unless you're going to, extend him. Unless he won't extend, but then it's like, why would you make the trade in the first place? I don't know.
Yeah,
but
it does make things. I don't know what the Jets are doing. Like, it honestly, to me, what it feels like the Jets are doing right now, knowing that Aaron Glenn didn't work out, but they can't hire a better coach right now. They're just kind of hanging, and they're not going to get a quarterback. It's like they're just hanging him out to dry this season.
Yeah, kind of like what the Patriots did with Gerard Mayo. Of course, they drafted the quarterback, but
I would say more like David Culley.
That's a good point. In Houston, yeah.
And I will say it's tough because, like, it is probably the right call. I as someone who said Aaron Glenn deserves to be fired, the Jets don't really have a path to a good quarterback this year. They play in a division with 2 very good teams. They have a difficult schedule this year. But you're not going to hire one of the coaches that you want. Especially the way this coaching cycle ended up. The odds of you hiring a sought-after coach are very low.
Yeah.
So why not just kind of sit for a year and take your swings the next year? Hire your coach going into the 2027 season and let him pick the quarterback in that draft. And I do think, well, man, we'll see. I will say, I said no path to a quarterback. If Kyler Murray ends up with the Jets,
yeah,
that's interesting. It does set up a very funny scenario where, with the Dolphins tanking as hard as they are, the Jets end up, they'll sweep the Dolphins, and that'll be enough to move them up to like 6th in the draft, and they won't be able to get a quarterback. Like, that would be peak Jets.
No, it'd be so good. It'd be so good.
I do think we might be headed for like a legendary tank off here with the Jets and the Dolphins with this quarterback class, and the fact that they're both in the same division.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point. And you have two talented teams in the division with you, so it's easy to lose both of those games to both of those teams. You know,
Feels like both of those teams are starting the year with 4 losses in the division.
it kind of feels like it,
And
doesn't it?
well, like we've talked about how hard the schedule is going to be for the Patriots. They're playing the same teams for the most part.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, you
Yeah.
got to play teams from the NFC West. So the Jets will play the Cardinals,
Jets will
and
play the Cardinals,
the
and
Dolphins have to play the third place 49ers.
yeah, it's not ideal for them.
So that the fact that there's that difference in games might end up making a difference because the Jets can beat the Cardinals. I don't know if the Dolphins can beat the 49ers.
That's true. Although who knows what's going to happen with the 49ers with the electric substation over there. You know, and everyone's ACLs just snapping.
That to me is what makes that subplot so funny to me is that apparently that substation's been there for like 30 years.
For a long time. Yes.
And in that span, the 49ers had like a 5 or 10 year span where they were like the healthiest team in football.
Right. It's silly. It's just one of those fun conspiracy theory things that actually doesn't make sense if you think about it for too long. But if you don't think about it and you go down the rabbit hole of, well, this could be the reason why.
It sounds plausible if you don't actually know anything.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It also makes it funny. Like the 49ers as a team have been snake bitten, but also just seem to kind of always be willing to look for an excuse. So the fact that their players have latched onto this from afar is just hilarious. Because
yeah,
it's like they'll probably lose a big game and someone will get hurt or something, and like this will become like a genuine issue for the team, and it's very silly.
Right, 100%. So, but yeah, it's the way it goes. But yeah. So the other, I guess. So, what are? I guess the other question I was looking at is, did you want to kind of? We already talked about one trade. Do you want to talk about some potential trades? There's been a lot of smoke about potential trades around here.
It's that time. All the all the GMs are all together sipping cocktails in one place, and that's where business happens. So this is where you're going to get the rumors because this is where the conversations are happening.
Yeah, that's very true. So AJ Brown obviously is the one that people have been talking about a lot. There's AJ Brown, there's Max Crosby, and then my favorite one is Brian Thomas Jr. My God, if the Patriots could send 31 to Jacksonville for Brian Thomas Jr., like sign me the hell up for that. And you know, I mean, I don't know what. I'm not sure if you can get him to buy in, but it's Vrabel. I feel like Vrabel could get anyone to buy in. So, like, similar to Belichick, where he would take those, you know, cancer guys, those problem children, Randy Moss and Corey Dillon, and those guys that were like locker room problems, quote unquote, and then take them here and they'd have success with them. I feel like Vrabel can do the same type of thing with this kid, and maybe he can't. I don't know, but the highs that we saw from him is so incredibly good that I think it's worth taking a risk on.
As someone that liked Brian Thomas Jr., like I respect Liam Cohen as a coach. He seemed to get a lot of buy-in there, and Travis Hunter, who I love. It's not a full-time wide receiver for them right now.
Right.
If he does end up doing that, it's not going to be this season when he's coming back from injury, and you know they're working him on defense too. So you're trading a guy who is really your number one outside receiver on a rookie contract, who has been that productive in the NFL, again, with a coach who is respected and not quite at the Mike Vrabel level in terms of how he's seen around the league, but someone who seems to get the best out of his players.
Yeah.
These are all big red flags to me.
Oh, yeah.
And what I will say is this, like, for me, the issue with Brian Thomas, it's the on the field. He gets the alligator arms. He doesn't seem to want to go over the middle. That, to me, is not a Mike Vrabel guy.
Yes.
If you're not willing to do that stuff, the little things, it wasn't playing physically. And I know there was some discussion about him playing through an injury last year and how he may have just like not been comfortable, and that was part of it. But I also feel like if that's all it was, they wouldn't be listening on trade conversations.
Which I agree with you. And listen, you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. And I think that there are some serious red flags there. I also think that there are so many other pieces to it that I'd be willing to take. And let me give you a perfect example. There's a lot of issues with George Pickens too, right? And George Pickens went out and completely dominated in Dallas this year, right? Now, maybe that stuff wasn't as much on field as it was off field with him, but he definitely had plays where he just would take a play off, right? And you didn't see that as much this year in Dallas. And so, I wonder if you couldn't get some more buy-in for Brian Thomas Jr. this year.
But what was George Pickens traded for? It's like a third and a fifth.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
And it's a different price, and that's where it's tough for me. It's also like Brian Thomas, 2 years left on his rookie deal plus a 5th-year option if you want it.
Yep.
So we're saying 2 or 3 years you're getting him for sure under team control for a first-round pick. I don't know if I love that. If it's a second, yeah, I'm in. You don't have to.
Yeah, I can see
have to sell me on that.
Yeah,
it's just the first for me is maybe tough. I will say that's a trade. If it was like a third and Pop Douglas, or like a second and Pop Douglas, something like that.
I think actually, and my dad texted me this today too, and I was kind of thinking this anyways. I think there's a good chance Pop isn't on the team anyways next year.
I think it just depends on how many bodies they have at the position, though. Especially, and I think when we're going to talk about receiver here, I think we got to talk about the elephant in the room, which is the Stephon Diggs situation. They have 2 weeks, I think, to really make a call on him before his bonus kicks in.
Right.
I think it's March 11th if that kicks in. So March 14th, something in there.
13th, I believe it is. Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere in there. That's close enough.
Yeah. So
they have until then to make a decision. If there's a world where Stephon Diggs is not in New England next year, Pop Douglas then becomes your starting slot receiver.
Right. Unless you
replace someone, you can trade for someone, you can draft someone who can, fill these roles.
Right.
But you do then actually have to make one of those moves. I do wonder if Pop is like a good trade candidate here. I don't think he's a bad player. I just don't know if this is the right fit for him. And I think if you can get he's great at separating against man coverage. He's a pretty good deep threat, but you need an accurate quarterback because he's got a small catch radius and he can't block. So you basically need a spread offense with an accurate quarterback. And I don't know exactly where the best fit for that is going to be right now, but I'm sure someone would be willing to, kick the tires on him if you get to camp and he has fallen out of the rotation. The other thing is that there's a world you get to camp and Kyle Williams hasn't gotten any better. And it's all right, well, Pop, you're familiar with Drake, the offense. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of the situation. Coley asked about Jordan Addison as well. Jordan Addison going into the last year of his rookie deal, of course, obviously, right? He has the 5th-year option, but you're talking it's I don't even know, $17-18 million, something like that, if they decide to pick that up. So Jordan Addison, for all intents and purposes, going into the final year of his rookie deal. I'd take Jordan Addison, but again, you're talking a 3rd or 4th-round pick, something like that. I like him.
He's got some real off the field concerns.
But that's the issue, right? Is that I'm not giving up anything significant to get a guy that I don't know is going to play a full season for us. So,
and I think that's one of the big concerns. And I think we bring this all the way back around. This is where someone like AJ Brown just becomes interesting because if he's forcing his way out of Philly and you can get him for cheap because of that, a lot more interesting to me.
Bingo.
And he plays on the outside. So to me, I think you probably move on from Diggs if you're making that move. And you slide him in on the outside. Then Kayshon Boutte can be your kind of the slanker, someone who can play slot, someone who can play the flanker role, someone you can move around a little bit. And then you've kind of got Kyle Williams, Mac Hollins, Pop Douglas vying for the 3rd receiver spot, and you can sign someone else if you want or draft someone else if you want to compete for those snaps. Or if no one falls to you in the draft, and that plus Hefton Chisholm is your wide receiver room going into next year, you can be okay with that.
Right. And I think AJ Brown is the one that makes the most sense. I don't know if they can make it work, but if you're telling me it's a 3rd round pick for AJ Brown, I do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And so if that's the case and we can get him, now you're talking about, okay, we can spend that 1st and 2nd round pick on other positions of need, whatever that might be, right? Whether it's, a guard in the 2nd round or even a guard in the 1st round, if you wanted to, matched up with something on defense in the 1st round, or edge defender, or, whatever, again, whatever it is, I think that's one of those interesting parts of it. And Nikhil mentions it too. Like, we don't want AJ Brown going to Buffalo or Kansas City. Like, that to me is, not that
Buffalo Buffalo doesn't have the cap space to make that work.
I don't think they do. Kansas City does.
Yeah.
Kansas City does. They just freed up like $40 million worth of space because of Patrick Mahomes. But, I think that I am curious about that. And I look at it and say, all right, well, if you can trade a 3rd and say it's a 3rd and a 5th next year or something like that for AJ Brown, that's a steal, in my opinion.
Yep.
And so I would do that for sure. I think that he is still a very good player. Is he the best player? He's a top 5 receiver in the NFL anymore? No, but he's top 15 still probably. And if that's the case,
definitely like top 32.
Right. Well, that's the thing, right? Yeah, he's definitely a number 1 wide receiver for you, right? And so you feel like then everyone kind of slots down, but everyone stays where they are, right? You just get better at the top. You hope that Kayshon Boutte takes another step forward. You hope that Kyle Williams takes another step forward. You hope that you continue to develop the guys that are already on your roster, and you go from Stephon Diggs to AJ Brown is essentially what you're trying to do, right? Yeah. And so you're saying, okay, our number 1 receiver got better, right? We got a better version of our number 1 receiver, and then all of our younger guys are continuing to grow, and then maybe we add someone as well. So I'm curious, we'll see, but I just think that makes the most sense for them.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And you mentioned like the 3rd or 5th or whatever, like similar age with the Randy Moss trade, generally speaking, a similar position. That was a 4th. They got that done during the draft. Yeah. I don't think you would necessarily wait that long if you're New England, although you could. I mean, that's the other thing. If you're the Patriots, you got to handle the Diggs situation first. I don't think Diggs ends up staying in New England. So I don't think the Patriots are willing to have him on that contract.
I don't think so either.
And you can't really restructure it in a way that's going to make the Patriots feel better about the contract. So the only way is to ask him to take a pay cut. I don't think Stephon Diggs is taking a pay cut. So I think he's going to be a free agent. And you can also just go into into the draft. Like, that's kind of what the Patriots did. They went into the draft. You don't draft a receiver. All right, we'll go pull the trigger on this trade day 2. And maybe you do something like that here. We'll see how it works. I think there was some concern about the medicals with AJ Brown, with his knees, but he's still a good player, and I have faith that Vrabel can get him to buy in. They have a good relationship. I think the fact that he's a big body guy works really well with Drake May. And
sure does.
The fact that he plays outside the numbers, I think, makes things easier for the guys who have. Then Kayshon Boutte can play in the slot sometimes and can do some other stuff. When he was drafted, we said that he's not an X. He's anything but an X. Well, he's had to be the X. He's gotten better at it than anyone expected. Now we can put him in spots that are more favorable to him. And it also means when you're drafting players, how long were we talking about how the Patriots need an X receiver? So every draft, it was like, all right, well, we just have to look at the big guys. So we have to look at the press beaters. And then you get guys who just aren't that good. All right, now you have more flexibility, and you can still draft those guys if you like those guys. But if someone like, a speed slot receiver, or just kind of do everything wide receiver falls to you, you can draft them too. You can fit them in. It works.
Yeah, that's true.
And the thing with AJ Brown too, he blocks, so you can use him as a slot. Some of the you can't use him as basically a tight end the way they used Mac Hollins. I mean, you could. I don't think you want to, but you could use him a little bit like that, and that's one where like, all right, maybe if you then you can move on from Mac Hollins if you want. Like that also sets up the position where like, all right, well, we're gonna go into camp with Mac Hollins, but if Kai Williams and Pop Douglas and the receiver you draft or Efton Chisholm play well enough, all right, we can just move on from Hollins. We're feeling good about where we are.
Yeah. I also think it's worth noting as well that Mike Reese had said that they had said on the, again, who knows? But he also said if there's a big splash this summer, it's probably not going to be free agency. It's probably going to be a buy trade. So I thought that
to
was
be fair. I think that's also because I don't think there's a free agent you could sign who is a big splash.
It's a fair point.
It's not a good. I think there's depth in this free agent class. I don't think there's stars at the top. So if you're going to make a move, I think it's going to be there. I will say, if we can segue here.
Yeah.
Mike Vrabel had said something, and I did not listen to the clip, but I listened to Catch 22 and Evan Lazar talking about what Mike Vrabel had said.
Yeah.
But he talked about how when asked kind of what went wrong for the offense down the stretch, he said they need to lift, literally. They need to be stronger. And I think that matches all of the things that we have been talking about on here. That one of the issues with Will Campbell is that he's young and he hasn't had a full offseason in an NFL strength and conditioning program. Jared Wilson was just not strong enough to move people out of the way. Garrett Bradbury, who played surprisingly well last year, why did he struggle? He couldn't move people out of the way. That was the entire left side. Just couldn't move people out of the way when you needed that to happen. You couldn't push the line of scrimmage. And I think that's an issue. We talk about Pop Douglas. He's not going to give you that. We talk about tight end position. None of those guys give you that right now. Yeah. You look at the quarterback position. One of the single biggest weaknesses for Drake May last year was that he can't QB sneak. I think the longer the season went on, the more that brilliant sequence from Mike Vrabel at the end of the first half in Tampa actually just looked like that was Drake May trying his best to QB sneak, and he's not good at it. And it's like this group needs to be stronger. And I also think what they look at in the veteran market, free agency and trades, and in the draft should probably be colored by him saying that. Like, it's just clear you need a team that is physically stronger and can push people around. So that was one of the issues against the Seahawks. Like, you couldn't push people around in that game. Like, even when they're bringing those blitzes and even when they're getting pressure, if you can push people around, even if they're getting free rushers, that's more space for Drake May to evade sacks, to take off and run, to try to create plays and extend plays. Gives you the opportunity to run the ball. And like what's clear from how the Seahawks played, the thing on defense now is going to be playing as light as you can on defense while still being able to get away with being just good enough against the run that you can get away with it.
Right.
So the secret then is you have to be strong enough on offense to bully those teams and force them to put linebackers on the field that you can target in the passing game.
Right.
Patriots need to get there. And I think left guard and tight end 2 are the glaring spots where you say we can just add a veteran at these spots, whether it's free agency or trade, and try to just get someone stronger in here, plus your own internal development.
100%. And Thad mentioned, that Vrabel mentions that he had to do a better job evaluating tight ends. I don't think that has anything to do with Hunter Henry. I think Hunter Henry's fine. I think he's not going anywhere. I think that's trouble for Austin Hooper. I think Austin Hooper, they need to upgrade that tight end 2 spot to a guy that can be good in the passing game, but also significantly more impactful in the running game. He's just not. That's not who Austin Hooper is. He's a good player. He's been here the last few years. He played pretty well, but it's time to move on. And so I think that's more so about Austin Hooper. I also think too that Hunter Henry's not getting any younger.
Yeah.
I think that that he's a solid player for the Patriots. He's a reliable player for the Patriots, but he's not a dominant player for the Patriots. And I think that it's okay to not have a dominant tight end. It's okay, right? But like, you need to have someone that can do a little bit of everything. And I think that Henry played well last year.
I think it was a career high in yardage for him.
Yeah. I just think that, for me at least, you need to get younger at that position so that you have guys to take over that spot from Hunter Henry, and you have a guy that can maybe, progress into a player that's as good, if not better, than Hunter Henry is.
Yeah. When it's like the goal here is to win championships. Henry
Right.
is good.
Right.
We're trying to be great. And like this is a spot you want to upgrade long term. And you want to keep Henry around. He's a great leader. He's a good player. He's probably someone who if he's still around in 2 or 3 years and he's on the Patriots, you want him to be your tight end too.
Yep.
Like just a nice steady possession receiver. Let him settle almost into his Jason Witten era there at the end of his career, where it's like, all right, you're gonna play 20 snaps a game. They're all gonna be passing snaps. There's gonna be a lot of third downs. We're just gonna ask you to settle in a hole somewhere and catch a ball. Like that's what we need from you. Also, I just want to address that comment here from goalie. He says McDaniel schemes his offense in a way where they don't need to target a wide receiver 10 plus times a game. I think it's important to remember Josh McDaniels was the architect schematically of the 2007 Patriots offense that led to like one of the best wide receiver 1 seasons of all time by Randy Moss. And I would also say a lot of those late dynasty Patriots offenses where he was the offensive coordinator, they didn't need a wide receiver 1 because their top target, the dynamic force on the team other than Tom Brady, was Rob Gronkowski, who commands so much attention that you get advantages in the running game, and every other receiver is getting like one-on-ones where It's a little bit easier for them. And you can get away like Julian Edelman, a great player and a playoff legend, not your typical wide receiver 1, not the typical body type of a wide receiver 1. You can get away with that type of player in that role when you have a Gronk. And I would also say a lot of that is Tom Brady being Tom Brady. Drake May is not Tom Brady. He likes to spread the ball around. I don't think you necessarily need the dominant wide receiver 1. We're trying to win football games, and having guys who demand defensive attention and a connection where your quarterback feels like he can just go there when he needs it helps you win football games. So, it has its value. You don't overpay for it just to say we got a wide receiver 1. But I'm very much interested in acquiring one, and Josh McDaniels does absolutely know how to use one.
100%. 100%. And I also think too, like, we have a few people talking about, weapons. I don't know what Nikhil's issue is with Hunter Henry, but, I agree with this part of it, right? That he's not Brady. He needs weapons, right? Brady needed weapons too. Like Brady didn't win with a bunch of scrubs. I understand that the receiving core in 2011 wasn't great. Rob Gronkowski had the greatest season by a tight end in NFL history in 2011. Like he was pretty good. His weapons were really good, right? And I know that, sure, whatever. Like he still had Walker, he had Edelman, he had Gronk. Like they had decent weapons. In 2014, it's the same thing. You go back and it's Gronk and it's, and it's other guys. And so that's the part of it for me where it's like, I think that he had weapons, and he's saying that Edelman wouldn't be successful in most teams. That's complete insane. So you're saying that
I don't agree with that at all.
You're saying that okay. You're saying Edelman wasn't good. That's okay. That's all right. I guess.
Yeah, Edelman like worked his butt off and was like he had a weird career arc where he was like immediately way more successful than he had any right being his rookie year, and he just kind of stuck at that for like 4 more years and then broke out. It's a very funny thing to look back at. Like, yeah, Brady from like 2007 on, Brady basically was always playing with a Hall of Fame pass catcher, which Correct. Is like, that's the goal. You want your guy to play with that. You want to maximize him. And obviously Brady won 3 rings without those guys. And if you can assemble a wide receiver core that's like what they had in 2003 and 2004, where you have multiple guys who are, not necessarily wide receiver 1 type guys, but still pretty dynamic players all on rookie deals. Like I think you look at the 2004 receiving core where it's like that's year 3 Deion Branch, year 3 David Givens, year 2 Bethel Johnson at that point, although he doesn't do much. And you still have David Patton around. And you still have Troy Brown around, who are veterans who know what's going on. Where like all of the pieces are interchangeable and all of the players are good. It's like every single player in there was like a B- at that point. I'm not against that. I also think if you want to get to the point where you're going to have 5 B- in your receiving core, you still need to improve what you have right now too.
Well, I think that's the other part of it, right? Is that you can have guys like that. I also think too that having that number one guy is important, right? Obviously, but you don't have to have three of them. Like that's the other part of it is that like you have that one guy that's incredible, and then everyone else eats because that guy is incredible, right? If you have two guys that are incredible, it's like a cheat code. That's what the Rams had this year, right? They had Devontae Adams, and they had Puka, and you're like, holy crap! Like, yeah, no wonder why they're dominating everyone because they have these two unbelievable players, right? And that's great. Most of the time, it's not feasible, right? Sometimes it happens. Most of the time, it's not feasible. The Eagles had that last year when you have A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and Saquon all in the same offense, combined with the best offensive line in football. Like, it's unbelievable. You built an offensive juggernaut, And so it's those types of things where it's like, yeah, but you can't always get that, And again, to your point, where it's like, okay, even go back to 2018 Patriots, right? And 2018, obviously, you still have Gronk, but it's Edelman, it's Hogan, it's, and Thad pointed out, it's Edelman, Hogan, James White, Rex Burkhead, Philip Dorsett, like those guys. And it's like, okay, they're not all great, but they all do different things well. And they're in a system where if you don't cover that guy or if you single cover that guy, that's, so that's, anyways, that's one of those things for me where it's like, yeah, you don't need all great players. You just need a few that can dictate, offenses.
Yeah, but it's also worth noting in there, like one of the lessons, Puka was what, a fourth round pick, whatever it was. Before that, you have Cooper Kupp, who was third round pick.
Yep.
Like this is why you just keep throwing draft picks at
100%
wide receiver. Because guys break out, like who are taken on day 2 and day 3 and become really good players. And you just keep throwing picks at the problem. And that
A.J. Brown, second round pick, like.
Yep. You just keep throwing picks at the problem until you're able to fix it. And you want to get better at receiver. I think a little wink here. That might be a good segue into my mock draft.
I think so. We're gonna do an ad read first before we do that. We will get into your mock draft. I also would like to mention my guy Albert Regis that I talked about on Tuesday night show. First of all, weighed in at 295. First in defensive lineman at a 9-foot 8-inch broad jump, and second among D linemen with a 34-inch vertical. So, explosive player, even though he's, whatever, maybe not the biggest guy, but I love what he brings to the table. So, anyways, had a good day. I just wanted to mention that.
Love it.
So,
love it.
All right, so. Shoot your shot on Prize Picks and get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. That's right. Prize Picks is now giving you $50 in lineups when you sign up and play your first $5. Prize Picks makes every dunk, every dime, and every board that much more exciting. So don't miss this chance to get started on America's #1 app for sports picks. Okay? Once again, new feature alert has Prize Picks with early payouts. That means if your player gets off to a hot start, you now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. And listen, Prize Picks is simple to play. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. Pick from your favorite sports, anything from basketball, baseball, hockey, UFC, soccer, college basketball, tennis, golf, esports, and even more than that. What you're going to do is download the Prize Picks app, put in the promo code CLNS, and you get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Okay. Mock draft time. We got another mock draft coming out. This one from Matt. Hopefully tomorrow on Pat's mobile, maybe Saturday.
I've been slacking in the writing department. It's been an exhausting couple weeks at work and on the old day job. So
yeah, I hear that. Yeah,
a little
stupid
behind.
Day jobs.
Yeah, I know. If I can't get it up tomorrow, I would bank on this being up on Pat's pulpit over the weekend. But you can get a sneak advance here of my first mock draft of the cycle. Should we just rip into this?
Let's do it.
All right, 31. I don't know if this guy's going to be there, but I would like him to be here, and I think he would be a very fun Patriot. That is KC Conception, wide receiver, Texas A&M.
Ooh, baby.
I just think this is the perfect next step after Stephon Diggs. If you're moving on from him, he's someone who can play in the slot and on the outside. He can threaten deep. He's got a great catch radius. I just find him to be dynamic, and he's also the kind of guy that when you watch the tape, you start to hate. Marcel Reed is the Texas A&M quarterback.
Yeah,
Just
awful.
He should have had so many more receiving yards that are just left out there. It's unbelievable. But the tape is fantastic, and I don't think he ends up lasting to 31. But in my dream scenario where he does, I think you're running that pick to the podium. I think he's a perfect fit.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like him. I like him a lot. And again, this is assuming they don't make a trade for AJ Brown. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. We'll see.
I would do this even with a trade for AJ Brown because this is one of the things that's interesting to me. AJ Brown is an outside receiver.
It's a fair point.
Can play in the slot. The guys complement each other well. One of the things I like about a potential Brown move is that it doesn't preclude you from adding another wide receiver high in the draft if you'd like.
There you go. So how about that? How about that?
I'll stand on that.
Double dipping on wide receiver.
And this mock doesn't have an AJ Brown trade.
Well, right, but you get the idea.
Yeah. We'll get into the second round here. Pick 63, Jacob Rodriguez.
Oh, let's go.
He's awesome. I'm a huge fan of his. I think he is exactly the type of player at linebacker that the Patriots need for the schemes they like to run, to complement what Robert Spillane does, to upgrade on that second linebacker spot with an eye on the future. Rodriguez tested very well today, which matches what you see on tape. It also isn't that important to me at linebacker, but I do think it's nice to see it. I think he has shorter arms. It's a little bit of a concern for me, but you're drafting him because he is great in pass coverage. I think I said this on the Tuesday show, but the thing that stands out the most about him to me is the way mentally he's able to process zone coverage and match coverage and stuff. Like there's not a lot of plays where he's just kind of standing there covering air unless that's the design of the thing. He's good at finding which guy is his to cover when you've got all the funky stuff offenses will throw at you these days. And, he blankets guys. Yeah. And, I think Christian Ellis did a good job of that for you this year. I don't think he's the long-term answer. I think you want someone who can be a long-term answer there at an important spot in the spine of the defense. And, I like Rodriguez for that a lot.
Agreed. Rodriguez, just for context to everyone out there, he measured at 6 feet 1 inch, 231, had a 38.5 inch vertical, a 10 foot 1 inch broad jump, and ran the 40 at 4.57. Also looked incredibly smooth doing his linebacker drills.
He just moves well. He moves so well, and that's really important. In that position for me. Yeah,
it definitely is. And I love what Christian Ellis brought to the team last year. I think he played very well. I'm not necessarily moving on from Christian Ellis if we do this. I just think that you want good players, especially in that second level. That second and third level, you need really good players. And so I just think that if you can add a really good player, which I think Jacob Rodriguez is, I think it makes sense. And then you figure the rest of it out later, right? Do you move on from, Jack Gibbons instead? And then Rodriguez becomes your third linebacker, and then he plays in those passing downs or whatever the case may be. I think you can't pass up good back end guys when they're available.
And then I wrote myself, I might turn this into an article, but I wrote myself a list of reminders for myself for the offseason. Yeah. And one of them is just a reminder, you get the players you draft for 4 seasons, maybe longer. I think he's someone that fits you this year. I think he's also someone that fits what you want to do in 4 years. The kind of guy you want to sign to a second contract. This is why you go, this is why I said I'd be willing to go wide receiver in the first, even if you're trading for AJ Brown, because we don't know how many good years AJ Brown has left. And having multiple good receivers is a good thing. Having
Sure
a young
is.
receiver you can pair with Drake May and sign to a long-term deal, someone who could be in New England for 10 years, I think is a good thing.
Right.
So, yeah, having a long-term view there.
Agreed. All right, who do you got next?
This is I had to fudge a little with where the mock draft boards are with this guy because I don't think he's actually going to be available. But I just think Mike Vrabel would love him. This is Davison Igbinosun, the corner out of Ohio State. If you watch Ohio State defensive film, which I've done a couple times now with Caleb Downs and Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese, anytime you're like looking at the outside corners, you're just going to notice number one out there mucking it up with someone. Igbinosun is physical. He's aggressive. He does take his fair share of penalties as part of that. But he's just a super, super intense outside corner. And I think that's an attitude that Mike Vrabel is going to like. But then schematically, there's one very specific thing he does that I saw and a light went off in my head. You remember the second Bills game and the Ravens game? We talked about this, how in both of those games, when the offense would go out there, the Patriots defense is on the field. So one of those offenses is out there. You put just the tight end to one side. And the Ravens got one long run from Derrick Henry that way, going right at Christian Gonzalez. Yep. And the Bills, Josh Allen had a design run that way, going right at Christian Gonzalez. That was something teams were able to do. Igbinosun is a very good run defender at corner. And when Ohio State dealt with these formations, they called it a nub look. He would step in and play the linebacker. And he'll take on the run. He's physical. He's aggressive. He's very willing. For the way the Patriots like to play defense, he fits into that role perfectly. And he can be kind of a hybrid DB because of that. Like, he can almost be a safety for you. And I just look at, like, you know, when teams were able to run on New England, they were able to run to the outside. Getting a dude like that who's just like a physical, aggressive corner, not going to take any crap and go after guys, I think is important to fixing some of the holes they had. And Carlton Davis is not getting any younger. I think Igbinosun's the kind of guy you'd want to be your corner for this year, who can take over for Davis the year after. That's kind of the long-term view on it. But like, Davis has had injuries. Marcus Jones has had injuries. Christian Gonzalez has had injuries. All three of those guys missed time this year, and I almost felt like we were lucky they were as healthy as they were. So, like, I think if you draft a corner this year, that guy's probably gonna play as a rookie.
Yeah, no, I like that idea. I like that idea quite a bit. Again, I don't know if he'll be there at that pick, but he might. You just never know, and that's the thing is, like, where guys are rated right now. You know, you're like, oh, okay, maybe he will, maybe he won't. He's right now he's rated 83 on the big board, right? As far as mock draft database is concerned, that's not that far off.
No.
So, you know, I don't love that. I don't mind that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll see when I do the write-up if I can include some film comparisons there of the Patriots defense doing the things that they struggled with, combined with where Igbinosun could fit that. But that and just the attitude, like, I love a corner that's out there, and there's a play, and it hurts me as a Michigan fan, but there's a play in the Ohio State-Michigan game where they throw a goal line fade at him, and he completely shuts down the fade. And then when he and the receiver land, he just gives the receiver a shove and like throws him to the ground because it's like technically still close enough that he could have had the ball and he knows he can get away with it. And then he immediately walks over to the corner and starts like taunting the crowd.
Yeah,
on the road at the big house, and it's like that's the kind of attitude I want at that position. Especially, you know, Christian Gonzalez is a more laid back guy. I think we got a more like got Mike Vrabel saying he wants him to be a captain, and they're getting more out of him. I don't think you can ever have too little intensity.
Agreed.
Or sorry, too much intensity.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that, you know, especially with the way that they ask their corners to play and the physicality they ask their corners to bring, a guy that already has that and wants to bring that, I'm in on that.
Yeah. So Nikhil in the chat saying the Patriots hate taking OSU players. We took Trevion Henderson last year.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. So
There isn't necessarily a long lineage of taking Ohio State players this year. Vrabel immediately did it.
that's very true. And Michigan, I mean, who's the last Michigan guy? Uche? And they have Onwenu.
Oh, Wenu, yeah, those are two of
But
them.
like, I mean, obviously Tom Brady. But like,
I
you know,
always the guy who we drafted Jeremy Gallon, who's like the 5'9" receiver.
yeah, but in the seventh round.
No,
that's count.
That's the one that stands out to me because he was one of those guys who was a Michigan legend who never translated.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Should we move on here to?
Yes, let's do it. Fourth round.
This would be day 3 of the draft. We're going to start with Drew Shelton, the tackle out of Penn State. I don't know how much I'm in love with this after some of the things I heard Vrabel say, because the one big knock on Shelton is that he's not the strongest.
Yeah.
He's someone that needs to fill out his body physically and put on a lot of muscle. I think you need to invest in tackle. At this point, he'd be one of the better guys on the board. And he's played left and right tackle. I think he's the kind of guy who can be a developmental swing tackle for you. And he's a good enough prospect that there's a real chance you're going to feel good about him going into the next year. And if you don't, you still think he can be a quality swing tackle if you need to throw a first round pick at tackle the year after or whatever. He moves well. He can block guys in space. He's a good player for Penn State. Just needs to be better and stronger at the NFL level.
Yeah. And I think that, I'd be okay with that. I certainly would feel pretty good about that. We'll see, but I would feel pretty good about that. Because you need another guy. And I liked what we saw from Marcus Bryant, but like Marcus Bryant got passed on the depth chart, and so that doesn't feel great to me. Just about where he's at and what type of player he's going to be for the Patriots. So I think, I have a tendency to think that there's a pretty good chance that he's not going to be the guy for them this year.
Well, and it's
never know.
Look, the best problem you could have right now is that Marcus Bryant turns into something, and you drafted another tackle who turns into something, and now you have too many tackles.
Yeah,
if that's where we end up, I'm very okay with that situation.
100%, absolutely, especially in a league where there's a tackle shortage.
Well, we know what it's like to have no tackles.
We sure do.
Yes.
Sure do.
Yes. Moving on to pick 131, Sam Roush, the tight end out of Stanford. This is a guy who did well at the Senior Bowl. I don't think he was necessarily considered a great blocker at Stanford, but he seemed to block well at the Senior Bowl. Was physical route runner, made some really nice catches like away from his body. Is productive as a receiver. I don't know if he's necessarily that physical tight end too you're looking for, but I like the receiving upside, and I think he's a good athlete. And this felt like a good opportunity in the draft to take a stab at someone like that. I both of these picks here to me feel like developmental guys who you could be grooming for a role in year 2, maybe year 3.
Yeah, 100%. You're talking about 6'5", 260. He's a big dude. And so, I like the fact that he brings that. Is he the best blocking tight end? No. But, is he the most athletic guy? No. But I think he kind of brings a blend of things to the table. I also think if you look at his picture, dude, and he's got the Buddy Holly glasses with the tape in the middle. Come on, dude. That's what I want out of just some psycho wearing glasses like that. Like, give me that all day. So, I'm a fan of that.
He's fun. Move on here. Pick 169. I got Fernando Carmona, the guard out of Arkansas. He's a big, beefy dude with a mean streak. I think also a Senior Bowl guy who did well there. He's wide as a guard, which I think is something they could use at that position. And you're not drafting him to be a starter year 1, but you're drafting him as someone who you think, whether you're drafting a Band-Aid, signing a Band-Aid at left guard, moving Jared Wilson to center and looking for someone to step in year 2 or 3, or looking for an eventual replacement for Michael Onwenu on the right side, or just depth. I think this is probably the body type they're looking for there, and you just hope you can coach him up into someone who can maul as a run blocker at the NFL level and have that translate.
Yeah, it's interesting. He's a guy that I believe actually was a tackle at Arkansas. if I'm not wrong. But
I think he was originally in switched.
yeah, but he
Yeah,
just
he played.
doesn't quite
Well,
have the length for it.
he played at San Jose State for 3 years and was the starting left tackle for 2 of them. Was the starting left tackle at Arkansas in 2024, then starting left guard last year. So, I mean, you
Yeah.
also like that when you see a guy who has some of that versatility. I mentioned Michael Onwenu, like there's some similar profile there to him. Um, and he's got a mean streak. Like he's physical as a run blocker, and I think that is something that they need.
100%. Yeah, they need more of that. They just need more of that. And I want to throw guys to that problem. And again, it's the same thing we talked about with the wide receiver spot. Like, just draft guys. Just draft guys and see which ones work out. Like, we're going to figure it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and if you want to have a chance, like you gotta throw some darts at the dartboard here and see what happens.
100%.
Yeah. We got a very fun prospect with my next one at 190. I don't know if this is actually the type of guy they would take, but I was interested in his profile.
All right.
Adam Randall, the running back out of Clemson. You know anything about this guy?
I do not. Nope.
Converted wide receiver to running back.
Oh, I do that all the time on college football.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's so much fun to do that. But
it's like a cheat code.
It is. But he is. He's like 6'2", I think, as a running back. He's kind of not like he looks like a wide receiver the way he runs. So it's a little bit awkward. Like there's definitely some projection here, but he is so good as a pass catcher out of the backfield. He's unbelievable at it. And that's like, all right, is that a skill set that they are looking for right now? I'm not sure, but it's something I know he's good at, and I'm intrigued by the rest.
I like it. I like it, and a good kick returner as well. Like,
yeah,
whoo, that's No, I'm in on that. I'm 100% in on that.
Yeah, and he's fun. Next guy is also fun. You're gonna like this one if you don't already know. Riley Nowakowski, Indiana. He's a hybrid tight end fullback.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Very good run blocker. Very good run blocker.
Mm-hmm.
This is where you're going to get a little bit of physicality. This is like all the stuff they asked kind of like Jack Westover to do last year, but if he was good at it.
Yeah. Well, that's
yeah. He's physical. What's interesting too is like he can play fullback, and you can hand the ball. He came in as a running back and transitioned to this fullback, tight end, H-back role, but he can block out of it. So like you can hand him you can line him up in the backfield and hand him the ball if you want, or you can line him up at like wing tight end, and he's a very good blocker from that position. And I think from just some of the things they like to do in offense last year, he's not necessarily a mauler, but he can move people. I mean, there's a great rep where he's at like wing tight end right over a defensive end, and he blocks him and opens the running lane. And like it's like core strength that does it.
Yeah. Well, 6'1", 250. I mean, that doesn't hurt either.
No. So yeah, I liked that. I think this is something that fits. I could see it in New England.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. We're getting late here in the draft. 208. Nick Barrett, defensive tackle, South Carolina. He measured at 312 pounds. Explosive guy. Good run stuffer. Like, I feel like this is someone who fits the profile of what New England likes. And this is, I was telling Pat before the show, there's a couple guys, I think really like the last 3 guys here are guys who I liked based on their profile and put into my mock draft, and then looked up on Twitter so I could get some clips to put in articles and stuff, and found out they were blowing up the combine today, or the Senior Bowl, or the Shrine Bowl, or wherever it was. I think he blew up the Senior Bowl, and he tested very well. So I don't know if he's actually going to be available at this spot, but I think size-wise, I think he's similar to like Farmer and other guys they've liked at these positions. You know, the future for Barmore is uncertain right now. The future for Kairos Tonga is uncertain right now.
Yes.
They're definitely the defensive line behind those guys. You got guys who have been good role players, but no one I trust as a starter. And this is not a good free agent group at defensive tackle. So I think it might be a sleeper need for the Patriots, to be honest, even though they gave Milton Williams all that money. I do think Tonga does. They probably end up just bringing Tonga back. But especially the volume of picks on day 3, I like throwing a pick at the position.
Right. I agree. I do too. And again, that's the issue for me. I love it. Like, add to that position, and you look at the positions that, or the teams that have been successful, right? Philadelphia is a good example, and Philadelphia is kind of the example, the gold standard. We'll say they just have an infinite slew of guys that come in and can rush the passer, right, and stop the run as well. I mean, Milton Williams, for God's sakes, right? Like, they just keep doing it with guys. And a lot of times they're drafted, and of course they've drafted some guys high up, right? But they're just throwing picks at these guys as well. So just throw picks at the position and kind of go from there,
Yeah. We're staying on the defensive line. After this, a couple picks later, we are going to take Mason Rieger, the edge defender out of Wisconsin. There's another guy who was just testing very well. He's a twitchy edge rusher. A lot of people liked him as a sleeper in this class. I don't know if he's going to be a sleeper anymore after this offseason and his workouts here leading up to the draft. But he tested well, and he's twitchy, and he gets to the passer. He's like one of those undersized guys. And I think this is a position the Patriots are going to add veterans to. But I think you also drafted someone. And this is the body type that they like there now. You listen to Elliot Wolf talk about what they like at the position. He said basically everything but being a run stuffer. Like, they're looking for penetrators, they're looking for disruptors, they're looking for guys who get up the field, and they're looking for splash plays. He creates splash plays.
And I think that's what you need. Like, you need guys that can get after the passer, because ultimately that's what those guys can do better than anyone else. And there's just not a lot of guys like that out there. If you can find a guy, especially late in the draft, you can find a guy that can get after the passer at a good rate. Yeah, we want him to stop the run too. We do. But, we also need them to get after the passer. That's the number one thing they have to be able to do. And so I'm willing to take, again, same kind of idea with that interior of the defensive line. It's the same thing with, the edge guys as well. Just throw some picks at them and see what happens.
Yeah. One more pick in this. We're going Skylar Thomas, the safety out of Oregon State. Kind of a do-it-all safety. He's got some size. He had, I think, 2 picks in the Senior Bowl, or at least in practices leading up to that. Seemed to show out well there. I don't know a lot beyond that, but I do think safety's a position where they're going to start investing in some more guys. And they don't sound married to Jalen Hawkins.
They do not, no.
So, I wouldn't be surprised if Hawkins came back, but I do think, honestly, this safety class there's like 8 of the same guy. It's kind of like I think both with Chason and Hawkins, I'm like, all right, well, there's 8 of this guy in free agency, so we don't have to necessarily bring back that one. You can sign a different one.
And that's the other part of it is that, I think, and everyone's clamoring for edge rusher at 31, but there's so many good edge rushers in the free agent class that it's just sign 2 of those guys. And if Caleb Von Chason's one of those guys, sure. If not, then that's okay. You just sign 2 other guys, right? And now you're loading up on that position. Yeah, you may not be drafting one at 31, but someone on here mentioned, Nikhil actually mentioned drafting Cassius Howell at 31.
We're going to do the arm thing again.
Listen, are we going to do the arm thing again? I don't know if we're going to do the arm thing again, but here's the problem. He had a 30.25-inch arms. Those are short arms. By the way, wingspan's important too, okay? Ruben Bain had 30 7/8-inch arms, so shorter than 31, but his wingspan is 3 inches more than Cassius Howell's wingspan. Cassius Howell also tied for last place in both the vertical jump and the broad jump among the edge group at the combine. Not great. 32.5 vert and 9.7 broad jump. And again, you want to ask me, well, what does that mean? I will read to you. Albert Regis, 295-pound Albert Regis, 9 foot 8-inch broad jump, 34-inch vertical jump. That's a higher vertical jump and a longer broad jump than Cassius Howell as a defensive tackle, right? That's just not. Now,
That's wild.
The explosion on tape, you can see it. Like, he's a good pass rusher on tape. Yes, 100%. You can see it. But, like, at some point, those measurables have to count for something, right? Like,
When
I
do think too on the defensive line in general, being athletic doesn't mean that you're going to be good, but being unathletic, those guys almost never pan out. I forget which study it was. There's some study I was reading about when you looked at like pass rush win rate, like it really only translates if you are also athletic. All those guys where it's like they fall to the third round and it's like, man, he had like 15 sacks in college last year, but was like a mediocre tester at the combine. Like they never actually pan out.
Right. And that's really what it comes down to, right? Is that,
Yeah.
And listen, maybe it was a bad day. Maybe he's hurt. Like, I don't know, right? But the issue for me is that it's not, that's not the only thing, right? When you look at it and the arm length is short and the testing isn't good, and you're like, oh boy, that's not great, And so, that's an issue. And so that's the problem I have with him at 31. And look, I understand, and there's a conversation going on in the chat about offensive line, and Connor thinks that offensive line is their biggest need, and Nikhil thinks that offensive line, we don't need an offensive line at all. I don't know if offensive lines are our biggest need. I think we have to draft an offensive lineman. I don't know if we're drafting one at 31, but like, if they're worried about, if they don't have a left guard, like, you need a starting left guard this year. You need a good starting left guard. I think you're probably adding that guy in free agency. But you need a good starting left guard, and I also think we need a good starting right tackle. And I'd love to draft that guy because maybe he's starting next year and not necessarily this year. So, and that's where your take of drafting that guy. Now you're getting your guy in the 4th round. If that guy can come in and be a starter for you next year, and maybe even a starter this year, or spot starter this year, I think that makes a huge difference.
I want to reference my reminders list that I mentioned before, because my very first one that I wrote to myself, very important one. People often forget this.
Yes.
Free agency happens before the draft.
Bingo.
What your needs are on draft day will be different than what they are at this present moment.
Right.
And that's why I don't have an offensive lineman going higher, because I think that's something the Patriots can address by bringing in a veteran between now and then. If that would be my assumption, I would handle the mock draft differently. But this is kind of in a world where you feel like you have 5 starters going into the season, and I 100%. Think that's like one of the things that was Bill Belichick's strong suit for the longest time, is that usually when they got to the draft, you felt like you pretty much knew who the 22 starters were going to be, or at least you felt like
close to it,
or at least you felt like you had guys where you could field 22 starters and think you're going to have a competitive team.
Yeah.
And then you're looking to add guys like that. That allows you to go into the draft not just looking for guys for that year, but for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years from now.
Bingo.
And that's bringing us full circle to when the downside of the downfall of the Patriots happened. Some of the key things there was them not looking ahead at tight end, not having a plan there. And then really the pick that was maybe the most publicly egregious near the end is the Cole Strange one. Mm-hmm. One where you leave yourself with a massive hole in the offensive line and you're reaching for a guard in the 1st round because you feel like you need one to start. And I will say I also would not be upset with a guard in the 1st round. I'm sure he's going to pop up in one of our mocks during this cycle, but the Oregon guard.
Yeah, Pregnon, I think. Yeah. Actually, someone just mentioned him. Nikhil just mentioned him too.
He's fit. I think ideally you would like to just have that starter at left guard figured out before you get to the draft. But
Agreed.
That's the other thing. Like, you can sign the starter and still draft Pregnon. If you just think he's the best player on the board, you can pull the trigger on that. And it's like, all right, well, we're going to have really good depth at the spot, and we should have the guy who's the starter of the future, and this gives us flexibility. And you're trying to have 22 good starters. You're also trying to build a roster of 53 good players.
Yeah, and I think that that's what it comes down to, right? Is that ultimately you want BPA, right? You want to draft the best player available. And if you can set yourself up in a position where you don't have a glaring need, right? You're going to have needs. The team has needs, right? They're not a significantly talented team. I think they have a good amount of talent on the team, but it's not like every single position is locked up for them right now, right? You want to improve at multiple different spots. But if you look at it and say, okay, I feel good about our offensive line, at least pretty good about our starting five on the offensive line. We have guys that we can start on the offensive line. Feel pretty good about it. I feel pretty good about our defensive line, and I feel okay about our linebackers, right? We feel pretty good about every spot. But we could also add to all of those spots, and it wouldn't necessarily hurt us. And so, I think that that's the position you want to be in. And Nikhil mentions, I gotta mention Jennings Dunker. Like, come on now, 31's rich for me. I don't think he's gonna make it to 63. So could that be a situation where the Patriots get to 31 and they look at it and they say, "Huh, okay, well, we don't love the edge right here. We don't love the linebackers in this spot. We don't think anything's worth it. We don't love the tackles or like those top end guards. So we're going to move back into the 40s, into that, mid 40s, and pick up some extra picks. And now that's a spot where you can draft an offensive lineman, a guard, whether it's Dunker, if they like Dunker, if they don't, whatever. I don't know how they feel about Jennings Dunker, but it's one of those things. And so it's like, yeah, we need offensive linemen, right? And so I want to sign some guys. I also want to draft some guys, right? The thing about it is that you're not signing an all-pro guard. You're just not. That guy isn't out there, right? Wyatt Teller used to be that guy, but he isn't anymore. You're not signing an all-pro guard. So even if you sign a guard, you can still draft one early in the draft because you might be able to improve on that spot.
Yeah. It's funny. I just went to PFF the other day and I sorted all of the guards by run block grade. It's like, let me see. All right, is there someone in here who's just a good run blocker they can bring in for that left guard spot? And like the top 10 guys were all guys who are just signed a new contracts or just drafted. With Dylan Fairchild, I think, was up there. Georgia player who was a rookie with the Lions last year. Like a bunch of guys was like, all right, well, they just have no chance of adding any one of these players. Right. There's no way they can beat me. So that's, I will say, some of the stuff next year, it's just gonna have to be development from within. I think they're gonna bring in veterans at a lot of these spots. If you want to get better, Will Campbell needs to get stronger and better. Jared Wilson needs to get stronger and better. That goes for the entire. Kayshon Boutte, the way he was getting tossed around in the Super Bowl, got to get stronger and better.
100%. And I also think too, one thing that I would trust Vrabel and and Wolf to a certain extent, but Vrabel certainly and Cowden is look what they did last offseason with their free agent signings, right? Obviously they hit on the big guys, right? Diggs and Williams and guys like that were big name guys. But they also hit on those mid-tier players. The Mac Hollins, right? Yeah. The Morgan Moses, those guys.
Hawkins, Tonga, and Jason.
Right. Those guys were valuable players for you, right? Now Hawkins is a guy that was here, right? But still, the point is they brought him back.
Hawkins was an Elliott Wolf guy the year before too.
Right. That's fair point, right? So it's you're bringing those guys in that are mid-tier guys that play important roles in your team. So I'm trusting Mike Vrabel to go out and sign some guys that are a little bit under the radar and then are going to wind up playing a little bit better than we expect, right? And I think that, that to me, and look, Christian Ellis is a guy like that as well, that Elliott Wolf identified and now, fits well into this system and played very well this year. So it's just one of those things for me where we don't have to sign that guy on day one of free agents. Oh my God, he got the best free agent. We don't have to do that, right? We did that last year with Williams and it paid off. He was worth every penny, right? But what really made the free agent class so good last year was those mid-tier guys, and bringing those mid-tier guys in really made that huge difference. And so if that's the case, I look at it and say, okay, do that again this year, right? Bring more guys in like that this year. And, now I feel really good about it. So we'll see.
I have just another note I want to mention.
Yeah.
We have a little typo from Nikhil in the chat, but I actually love it. He says Robert Spillane. I saw this. I read this in Jerry Remy's voice in my head. The old Red Sox announcer. Throw the Massachusetts accent R on the end of it, and I'm absolutely loving it.
I love it.
I did see a video the other day, just going on a Red Sox tangent here for a second. Someone had mentioned they wish Remdog was still around so that you could hear him say Isaiah Kiner Falefa's name on the broadcast, except he did get to call his name at some broadcast in the past. And it's like Isaiah Kiner Falefa. And
So good.
It.
It's so
I miss
good.
Remdog, man. He was
The two clips, him and Orsillo together, the two greatest clips of all time, right?
Yep.
Is the pizza clip is incredible with them breaking down the pizza clip. And then the one where
this used to be a family show.
Oh my god, it's the best one. It's the best one of all time because they're just silent afterwards, and then Orsillo was like, he was outside. Oh no! And he just it's
Marquez takes
incredible, incredible. It's so good.
My favorite moment in either one of those clips is when Remy's trying to like he can't get the telestrator up to circle the pizza, and he's kind of mending because he's like, here comes the pizza when he throws it.
It's unbelievable.
Iconic Boston sports moment.
Just absolutely incredible. You just don't have. Yeah. We don't have moments like that anymore. It feels like, at least, just so good. And Orsillo is just.
Oh yeah,
that's good. Yeah, that's good.
He gave some good stuff. He's been retired for a couple of years now too.
Yeah,
so. And I think they've put a decent booth together at Nesson for the Sox. But
yeah,
it was.
I mean, it's
just
funny.
Not,
yeah,
I was even like Jack Edwards for the Bruins. I was trying to explain to my fiance, like she didn't grow up as a sports fan. She doesn't know what it's like. God. But just the fact that it's like every time, especially with these local sports, every time that this team plays, these are the voices that you're hearing for so many years. And especially like for hockey or for baseball, it's so many games that like just the sound of Orsillo and Remdog talking 100%. About something just becomes like the backtrack to so many summer nights.
Right. 100%. And it's, like you mentioned Jack Edwards, like Jack Edwards when they beat the Canadians and he goes on that rant about the Canadians. It's just like insane. It's like, what are you talking about, you lunatic? But like, that's what you have. And like before that, you had Johnny Most doing the same thing for the Celtics. That's a throwback to, the people from years and years ago. But then you had Tommy and Tommy, losing his marbles about, the coaching, the refs and everything. It's just like, it's slanted and it's incredibly biased but it's fun. And that's what you get. And Zoe gives a little bit of that. Zoe, at times can be a little bit of a goon, but I think that's kind of that he's in that same realm of of that stuff. And Gil and Gino, like no one will ever top Gil and Gino. I think they're the best. I think they're the best duo of all time because
their voices were perfect for it.
The voices were perfect, and they were a lot more measured than those guys were, right? They weren't as funny, but they were so good at what they did. And just so anyways, but we're off on a tangent here, but my goodness, like just awesome.
My favorite Jack Edwards call ever is the overtime winner against Toronto with the 4-1 comeback.
Oh yeah.
Because it's an overtime
unbelievable, yeah.
But not that it's what he says after that, because it's an overtime winner. So it's hockey. You have no idea when it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
What he says, he ad-libs this on the spot. He goes, with the point of the dagger at their throats, they rip it out of Toronto's hands and kill the beast.
It's just incredible.
What? You came up with that on the spot?
It's insane.
In overtime of a Game 7?
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. It's just, that's the stuff where it's,
Well, Jack Edwards, he was a homer and he was biased. He also loved hockey, and there were points where, like, he'd get as excited for opponent goals or for opponents winning a fight as he would for the Bruins. He's going to be slanted in his analysis of it.
Of course,
but he gets excited for it. And that, to me, like, I like hockey a lot. A big reason for that was, like, you can't watch a Bruins game with Jack Edwards on the call and not think it's the coolest thing going on at the moment, because Jack thinks it's the coolest thing going on at the moment, and you're hearing it from his perspective.
I agree. See, this is what you get, guys. This is what you get when you tune in here, right? We're an hour and 20 minutes in, and we're talking about Jack Edwards and Don Orsillo and Jerry Remy and
Tommy
Gil and
Hudson.
Gino. Like, come on,
Yeah.
and Tommy, right? And
I will say I missed growing
Johnny
up.
Most. Come on now.
Was it growing up in Connecticut where I did? We were in a weird television bubble where we got Nesson, but we didn't get NBC Sports Boston.
Oh, so you never had Tommy.
I was not able to regularly watch the Celtics until I went to college and was in Rhode Island and actually had that on like the local cable.
Yeah.
So then I was able to get some of it.
Of course,
But,
yeah. Wild man. A wild man.
Yeah.
So
if you are listening to our show and you have not heard the two Remdog and Orsillo things that we're talking about, here's what you do. You're gonna go to YouTube and you're gonna search up just Red Sox pizza incident, and that's gonna get you that one. And the other one is just Red Sox. Just say this used to be a family show.
Yeah.
And I think that'll get you the other one.
Probably, yeah. Oh, it's so that one's my favorite because it's just like, oh, look at the couples enjoying the and then it just the silence. Oh, it's unbelievable. It's so good.
Well, it's funny how regular that stuff was on the broadcast. And my dad and I talk about it all the time. That like sometimes you would just come back from a commercial break, and it's silence because they were laughing about something during the break.
Right.
And you don't find out what it was until you get halfway through the inning.
Yeah.
They're finally able to talk about it.
It's so good. So good.
Like my mother was not a sports fan either. She liked it because we liked it.
Yeah.
But she never minded Red Sox games being on because something funny is happening.
Yeah.
They're funny to listen to.
Agreed.
You remember the Remdog moment where he's doing the air guitar and he falls off the booth? It's another one I remember.
Maybe. Yeah, he like fell back right off his chair.
Or he was like, I think it was like before the game, and he's up like standing. He's got like his leg up on the desk or something, standing, and stumbles and falls backwards. That's another one I always remember with him.
Oh goodness. Two questions here before we go. Back to the Patriots for a second here. Should we resign Vidarian Lowe? Nikhil's wondering. Yes. Question mark.
Yes, if he's paid like a backup. No, if he's paid like a starter.
Bingo. There it is right there. Love it. Oh, very concise. Very concise. Well done. And Old Man Mob asks, what are the chances we draft a punter this year? I think pretty good. I think what we saw from Bryce Behringer was not good enough this year. I think if they can get a guy in the sixth, 7
number
rounds,
17 jersey. Yeah, it's the number 17 jersey curse, man.
Yeah, it really is, man. He should have worn 99. If he had worn 99, it would have been a totally different story. Screw Keon White, dude. Keon White didn't do anything with it, He did
work for the Pats in the Super Bowl.
He did.
So we'll give
he
him
did. A lot of good that did.
Yeah, I have not looked one bit at the punters in this class, so I can't tell you if they're any good. But I can tell you that if there are punters that are good at some point in one of my mock drafts, you're going to see one because the Patriots also have 3 picks in the top 100 and then 8 picks after that.
Yeah. So it does seem like it does seem like a good spot for Jack Stonehouse is a guy that
that's a great name. That's a great name.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Jack Stonehouse is a guy that talked about the Patriots and talked about Jeremy Springer. As a matter of fact, I believe that who was it? Hold on, because he wrote the article and I want to give him credit for it because Ethan Hurwitz for Hurwitz Sports for SI.com. He wrote about his connection to New England, and I believe that Jeremy Springer recruited him out of high school, and so I think his cousin at one point played for Mike Vrabel too. So there's some connections to the Patriots there. I think he's a guy that would like to punt for New England. Played at Syracuse in the New England-ish area, at least in the Northeast, and so. I think that could be a decent fit for them. Again, late in the draft, you're talking, 6th, 7th round, even UDFA. But I'd be surprised if they don't bring in another punter. Yeah.
So definitely agree there. Also, potentially they look at the veteran market. There's a lot of possible ways to skin that cat.
Agreed. All right, I think that's it. I think we're done.
And are we? I think going forward, we'll be in our off-season cadence here. Some probably Monday, Thursday going forward.
Yeah, probably Monday, Thursday is what I would think. Again, those dates are going to come up real quick, guys. Those dates are going to come up real quick. The combine's obviously happening right now, but March 13th is that deadline for a lot of that guaranteed money coming up. So Diggs is a guy that I think they're going to have to make a decision on. Christian Barmore is a guy that I think they're going to have to make a decision on at some point, sooner rather than later. And so, those are two guys that I think have some off-field stuff. I think they like what they brought to the table for both those teams, for both those guys this year. But the question is, are you willing to deal with that? And so they're going to have to make a decision on that sooner rather than later. So we'll be talking about, all of that stuff coming forward. And as Goalie says, we were in the Super Bowl. So that all of a sudden, here we are. You know what I mean?
All of a sudden, we're in the cycle. It's nice to not get into the cycle until late February instead of doing it in late October.
I was gonna say, late October, early November. It's kind of nice,
It was nice starting this draft thing, not already knowing every player that could go in the top 10 before Halloween.
Yeah. I mean, listen, we were doing mock drafts so early that I had Jaden Daniels in the second round. Okay, that's how early we were doing mock drafts. So, that's the way it was back then. So,
it is.
Anyways, thanks for tuning in, everyone. We appreciate it. We'll probably be back, as we said, most likely Monday night with you next week, talking more draft stuff. I'm sure we'll have another mock coming out. Yeah, another live mock. And I think what we're going to try to do is what we did last year, trying to do maybe this year is Matt and I alternated weeks writing a mock draft for Pat's Bowl, but I think we might do the same thing again this year.
Something like that. But we can do the live mocks on Mondays. Keep our mock draft Mondays going.
Yeah, mock draft Monday again. And then
so if you're here now listening to this, remember to come back late Monday night by 10 Eastern. We'll be doing the live mock. And if you have players you want us to take or ideas, come ready with that and throw them in the chat, because we will be listening to you guys when we do that.
100%. We always do. And the other thing too, and we did this last year, and I think we'd like to do it again this year. If you have a mock draft, send it to us, DM it to us, send it to us on Twitter, tag us on Twitter or whatever. And
do we have an email for this?
We don't. Well, we do. Oh. We do. It's Pat's Nation Network at gmail.com. So, Pat's Nation Network at gmail.com. That's the one for you. If you see it, send it to us, and and we'll throw them up here for you, for everyone to see. So if you have one, let us know. And again, if you have guys you want to see in there, let us know in the chat, and we'll kind of go from there. So, and we're using PFF, I think, so we can make trades. We can make player trades even. So
we can also rotate through some different draft sims as we do this, just to look at different boards and stuff.
Yep, very true, very true. So, anyways, that's what we got. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We appreciate it. Thanks to the chat, as always, for being great. We appreciate you guys, and we will see you on Monday night. Hopefully, everyone has a great weekend. And listen, Matt, I got a playoff game tomorrow night, so I'm kind of excited about it. Playoff game, Taunton girls basketball against Andover. So, it's no offense if anyone out there is listening from Andover, but we're rooting for Taunton tomorrow night. So we'll see what happens. So it's gonna be. Andover's 19-1 this year, so it's gonna be a tough matchup. But they're gonna have their hands full with the Taunton Tigers. So we'll see what happens. So anyways, good luck to my girls tomorrow night. We'll see what happens. So anyways, thanks for tuning in, everyone. We appreciate it. Be good to each other, and go Pats.